So for our viewers on YouTube, this is for you. For our listeners, wherever you're listening to this podcast, check out YouTube later to catch the joke here. But this is literally what you're looking at right now on YouTube is a before and after. Before, about 2:30 on Wednesday. After 3:00 on Wednesday, because Farwell's in a full suit. I'm in a hoodie and a snapback. That is because we were wearing our suits before the Rangers attack game announced it was canceled here on Wednesday. And then as soon as that happened, Farzy, I had to throw on the hoodie, get comfortable, you know?
Well, it's funny you say that because I did the exact same thing. And then when we learned the game was canceled and we realized, oh, well, instead of working an actual game tonight, let's take the opportunity to record the intro to our podcast. I thought, well, you know what? Why let this suit go to waste? It was going to be worn tonight. I'm going to put it on because I'll be honest with you, Popey, at this point, I'm not sure I'm going to get to wear it on Friday either. So let's just bring you in behind the curtain just a little bit here. Usually these podcasts are recorded in their entirety on Monday nights. That's the day we interview our guest most often. And most often that's when Popey and I do this introduction to the podcast. We decided this week that we should wait because there was a big game, and by big, I mean big, between the Owen Sound Attack and Kitchener Rangers scheduled for their Harry Lumley Bayshore Community Center on this very night. And we thought, you know, with all the talk, and for the record, I think it was going to amount to a whole lot of nothing, but nonetheless, with all the talk about the quote unquote war at the Bayshore, we thought, yeah, we might sound a little bit out of touch if we record our intro on Monday. Let's wait till Thursday, and then we can discuss whatever it was that happened on Wednesday. So here we are, not at a game, having learned three things today. The Erie Otters have 13 players in COVID protocol, and the Rangers will not be in Erie on the weekend, nor will the Guelph Storm, for that matter. The Kitchener Rangers and Owen Sound Attack are not playing as we record this Wednesday night. I think the number of attack was 15. Don't quote me on that, but a bunch of attack players. And then the OHL announced after that Barrie and Sudbury, scheduled for this Thursday night, also canceled because Sudbury not yet clear of those COVID protocols. Three such announcements, one day. I don't want to dwell on it. This is a sports podcast. We need a break from all the COVID stuff, but I'm going to tell you, this has got a real eerie feeling to me because it's not just here in the Ontario Hockey League. I saw the commissioner of the National Football League on my sports channel earlier this afternoon when I was trying to avoid the news. We know there are cases in the National Hockey League. We know there are cases in the NBA, and it feels like deja vu all over again. I promise I'm not saying any more about it. That's it.
So the attack did come. Oh, I'm gonna ask. The attack did come out and say that they have players confirmed, because I didn't see anything like that. I've been off the internet for a while here since I came home. But
again, I cannot be confident of that number, but I have confirmation. I don't know if it was on Twitter or not, but yes, there are confirmed cases with Owen Sound players. And they are all, by the way, either asymptomatic or feeling mildly unwell, which is the same we've heard from Erie, which is the same we heard in Sudbury, which is the good news in all of this for sure.
Yeah, hopefully everybody who has been affected feels better. I tweeted out, Owen Sound did play Friday and Saturday in Flint, and Flint had played Erie on the Wednesday before. Obviously, Erie with 13 cases, you'd expect that's where it came from, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to speculate either, but
what's wild is, as we're recording this right now, again on Wednesday night, the 15th, the I-75 rivalry is underway in Saginaw with the Firebirds taking on the Saginaw Spirit. So there you go.
So maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
regardless, I'm trying to look at it glass half full, because somebody said to me on Twitter, my good friend Dan said that, you know, the standard response from the OHL, out of an abundance of caution, it's getting overplayed. And I said, you know what? It is getting overplayed. And I'm sure they'd say the same thing, because I'm sure they don't like saying it. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather them just cancel the team's games and practices and whatever they need to do to get things under control, because I like what they did with Erie. They shut things down. I like what they did with Sudbury. They shut things down. So they have protocols in place. I think the league's doing a pretty good job here, regardless of how they're putting it out there and the terminology that they're using. I like what they're doing.
I think you make a really good point there. If you want to be glass half full in this, it is absolutely, again, because we mentioned this when it was first brought up in Sudbury, and they were shut down for a couple of weeks, scheduled to return this weekend, right? That we said, this is a sign that the OHL's protocols are working. They are on top of things. I think it's fantastic. My concern, Popey, is that we now have the Erie Otters involved, the Owen Sound Attack involved, the Sudbury Wolves involved. Who knows about the Flint Firebirds as they're in action tonight? You want a glass half empty. What happens if we hear about more cases tomorrow? And the more teams that get involved in this through no fault of their own, I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong, right? There's not a big COVID party going on somewhere like the old chicken pox parties. That's not happening. It's just, it's what we're dealing with, I guess, with this brand new, highly transmissible variant. But the protocols, yes, are working. My concern is the number of teams that are currently affected, the impact on the schedule. Part of me says, look, it's the last weekend before Christmas anyway. Shut her down and just swallow hard and figure out the second half when the second half comes around. But in this province of Ontario right now, where we don't know, well, they're trying to accelerate third doses, etc. I just think the window is a little bit too wide, and you might be a month before you feel confident again, 6 weeks before you feel confident again. I've heard from fans that say, my tickets aren't going to be used. I don't care if it's 50% capacity at the Odd on Friday night. I'm not going to the games anymore. I'm taking a break. I don't know. Again, I really don't want to dwell on this. It's a sports podcast. I have a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. That's all.
It is a sports podcast, but this is the main story around this league. And like, to the point where I'm getting texts from people that I deal with in my real job. Hey, how's the sound game going? Curse word. Here we go again. Right. So that's all they're talking about. I got a phone call from another guy I deal with in my real job on the way home tonight. And he said, sorry to hear about Erie and Owen Sound, buddy. Hope you have plans this weekend. Right. But that's what people are talking about. People want to know. People are asking, well, what tickets are going to be good for, the Odd? Are my tickets going to be good? Can I still come to the game? I don't know. But yes, I'm with you where you look at it's the last weekend before Christmas, shut it all down. But to me, this new variant, extremely serious, obviously, as we, more people get diagnosed with COVID and we have more cases. But the important thing to remember here is, from what we know right now, as we record this podcast, no member of the Ontario Hockey League has had to go to the hospital. I look at this as there is a very good chance, and Farzy, I've said this to you on our many road trips, I think 5 hours or 10 hours in the last week and a half, I think we spent in the vehicle. But I look at it, and maybe it's right or wrong, but I look at it as we're all eventually going to get this at some point. It's whether we have the vaccinations in our system that will keep us out of the hospital. And to me, I'm looking at this, we're upwards of over 30 people in the league that we know about confirmed cases, and no one's been in the hospital. So I think that's pretty good. And why? Because they're vaccinated. But here we are.
I think that's a great point. And we know so far, again, as of the time of this recording, one person worldwide has had a death linked to the Omicron variant. So that's also a good sign if you want to look at it that way, considering the number of cases vis-a-vis the number of deaths. And I'll tell you right now, my third dose is booked for December the 29th, and it cannot get here soon enough. Bring it on.
I tried to book. I'm not old enough, I guess. Well, I got to wait till the Monday.
Finally, the old guy gets the break, baby.
Hey, you go before me, buddy, because I'm healthier than you.
That's right. Well, your liver, not so much.
I'm not. But... I'm not. I'm not, sadly. Did you watch the Dallas Stars game last night? Let's turn the corner here.
I didn't see the game, but I followed along as best I could on social. And look, it's a great story, particularly, and I'll let you tell it from the Rangers' perspective, but it was awesome to see a couple of OHLers in Ty Dellandrea and Riley Damiani get called up for their NHL debuts with the Dallas Stars. Now, I can't remember if it was on the podcast, Popey, or if it was on our broadcast that we were talking about Joe McDonnell. I think it was on our broadcast. But anyway, Joe McDonnell, now head scout, director of scouting with the Dallas Stars, who had his 4 rings with Detroit, etc., but had put together a nice collection of OHLers, and one of them certainly paid dividends in that debut last night.
Yeah, of course. Ty Delandry had been up before, but the solo lap goes to Riley Damiani, former Rangers forward and captain. I was just pumped. We were talking in the vehicle about Riley, and during the podcast actually when we spoke to Cam this week, and we were looking up Damiani's stats because he had such a good year last year in the American League.
That's what
you're
was,
yeah. Like, yeah, you said to me, kid's gonna get a shot, isn't he? He's gonna get a shot. 2 days later, he gets called up. Nostradamus over here. But it was good to watch because Riley was one of those players that a lot of fans loved in his time in Kitchener just because of how hard he worked. And just a good kid off the ice. One of my favorites in my time dealing with players in Kitchener. And just to watch him take that solo lap, and it was weird. Like, I'm watching the game and his first shift, I was like, damn her. I'm like, I'm a fan again watching the NHL. I haven't been a fan watching the NHL in probably 6 years. But to see him get that goal in the opening game, I was just like, go figure. Of course he is. Like, just continue to prove people wrong, because I'm sure people saw him out there in the warm-up and went, look at this small guy. He's not going to be able to make it. Yeah, how about a tuck in my first game? But then I think he saw 15 seconds of ice time after that. So,
and I think you hit the nail on the head. Just continue to prove the doubters wrong, because I remember, Chris, so well when this kid came into the league as a rookie, and it was really early on, and he was taking a key defensive zone faceoff. And I remember talking to who my broadcast partner was at the time, Mike Torchia, and we just got to talking about. And even it was Torch that really pointed out, he says, it shouldn't surprise you that he's taking this key face off in the defensive zone. Watch his 200-foot game. And so then I became much more aware of how responsible, but this was a rookie at the time, remember, how responsible Riley Damiani was at both ends of the ice. And then Torch and I came to the same conclusion. The kid's got the tools. The question is, does he have the size? And people are still asking that, but I will also add, and it ties right into the tools, that goal that he scored in his NHL debut last night was not a chump's goal. That was a legit goal. It was a beauty. The goalie's still sliding over. I know it's not great positioning, but he had to go upstairs with the shot. He did. But even before that, if you're watching the highlight closely enough, Damiani did a really nice job to keep the puck alive and then continue a cycle in the offensive zone. Yes, they were against the tired St. Louis line. Doesn't matter. Kid, small-ish in his NHL debut, doing the little things that lead to his opportunity, and then he buries a real beauty. If he never scores another NHL goal, that's a hell of a goal to retire on.
Who cares?
Yeah.
You played a game, you scored a goal, you've done. Shut it down. Right? If he never plays another game, which I'm sure he will. I even liked his little, making himself an option while the puck's on the half wall on the other side that you got it over there. He could have stayed high in the zone, too many people in there, slides a little lower, that pass comes across. Like, it's just the little things that he's done since day one in Kitchener. And I was so happy for him. But speaking of, captain of the Rangers gets his first NHL goal, captain of the London Knights back in the Ontario Hockey League, Luke Evangelista cut from Team Canada, Mike Farwell. Your thoughts?
Got the Hockey Canada snub. I'll tell you my thoughts, and my thoughts have been the same with this team and the vision for it for many years. I thought that maybe Hockey Canada had moved away from that, but this indicates to me that they have not. Look, in my opinion, not putting Luke Evangelista on the team is a rather large, if not mammoth, mistake. The guy's all-world talent, simple as that. But what I believe happens in situations like this is Hockey Canada comes in with a vision for the kind of team that they want. So we need 2 scoring lines, we need a checking grind, a big checking line, whatever, and then the grind line, whatever it's going to be. And they try to then find players to fill those spots. What I have said for many a year, and I will say again here, just take the best damn players and then tell them what you want them to do, and they'll be able to do it because they're the best damn players. So this to me just reeks of, they had their top 6 forwards and they didn't think Evangelista fit their vision for a 3rd or 4th line player. And now you're going to cost yourself an opportunity to have that kind of talent on your 3rd or 4th line. Even if you just told him to check, that's fine. Tell him to check. Luke Evangelista is good enough to do that.
Is he though?
Yes, he is. Of course he is. He's one of the best players in Canada.
Why?
Just give him an assignment and tell him to do it.
you can't do that.
Yes, you
Like,
can.
no, you can't.
He's one of the best players in the country. Yes, you
You
can.
can't. Francesco Pinelli, we're Ranger centric, and we go there because when we're arguing, we see the same team all the time. But Francesco Pinelli is a very good player. Can you ask him to go and be as dominant as Luke Evangelista? No, because he's not able. Because he's not able to right now. Right? You can't take. Right.
That's apples to oranges.
And this is my thing. You can't. Sometimes there are players in this world that are good at one aspect of the game and not good in another aspect. That's why a lot of players, when they get traded, they get another opportunity, put in another situation, they get another role. Luke Evangelista cannot play bottom six. He can't.
Why?
That's why he got cut.
Why can he not play bottom six?
I have not seen any. Listen, Luke Evangelista is an unbelievably talented offensive hockey player.
Right. So you're telling me
he's good with the puck and all that.
Yeah.
I don't.
So what else you want?
There's so many other players in the world that are better checkers than him, better grinders, better guys that are going to get in the dirty areas, want to kill penalties. In a tournament like that, you have to be very selective. That's why he got cut.
I'll tell you what, here's what's going to happen. Here's what does happen in tournaments like this. So often it's one of those early round games where you find yourself in a grind game against a lower ranked opponent, and all you need is a spark. You need that extra goal. You never regret not having enough defense. You regret not having enough offense. And if Luke Evangelista is there on your third or even your fourth line, and suddenly he's that offensive spark you need when you're trailing Germany 3-2, then that's what you're going to need. If he's the best player, he's the best player. Just give me the 23 best players and goaltenders in the country and tell them what you want them to do. They're the best players. They can do it.
I honestly don't think you could be more wrong.
Well,
I just, you have to be able to play that style that Dave Cameron wants you to play. And some players fit that style more. And you also have to remember, take off your OHL goggles. Because yes, Luke Evangelista is one of the top players, if not the best player in the OHL right now. But of the OHL players that made it, who are you going to take him instead of? Will Cooley? Will Cooley's much bigger. He's got a better shot. Then you're looking at Shane Wright? No. Like you're looking Mason McTavish? No.
Listen, if you're looking for the OHL argument, I'd make the Will Cooley argument. It's a horse race for sure, but I think we could make the argument. But not just the OHL players. There's no limit. You could take 20 OHL skaters if you wanted to.
For sure, but
I'm just saying, and yeah, maybe my OHL glasses are on, but I'm simply saying that yes, there might be players who play roles on teams right now, checking roles, that are more experienced checkers than Luke Evangelista. I get that, but I'm just looking at pure talent. Who are the best hockey players? And I believe that the best hockey players can do whatever the hell you ask them to do. That's my belief.
And some can, like Sid. Others can't.
Yeah, but
they just can't.
Right.
And I think honestly, Evangelista is one of those guys. If you hold up Will Cooley and Luke Evangelista, and I'm watching both their games, and I'm the Dave Cameron and the Hockey Canada brass, and I know one of these guys is making my team, but they're not in the top six. They're probably in the bottom six. I'm probably going Cooley because he's tougher to play against. He's a bigger body. They're both going to provide some offense, but Evangelista, as talented as he is, has shown in my eyes sometimes doesn't like to go into the dirty areas, and he's not going to overpower someone physically. He's nasty skater. He's a fantastic setup guy. He can shoot the whole thing. I love his game. He's come a mile. But in this tournament, I think Will Cooley is better suited for that role than Luke Evangelista.
Wouldn't you love to have Luke Evangelista on your penalty kill?
I would like to have Luke Evangelista on any one of my teams. But when it comes to like a
except Hockey Canada's,
well, it's and that's why when you get cut from a team like this and people are dissecting like we are right now, it is no slight against the player. Like the player is an unbelievable talent, but look at all the talent that they're pulling from. There's 60 major junior teams, plus the kids that went to the States. Like there's a lot of hockey players vying for this, 12 roster spots up front on Team Canada. So it's no slight against Luke Evangelista.
And I will plead ignorance on all of the players at even the selection camp that did not come from the Ontario Hockey League, because clearly I don't see the Q, clearly I don't see the dub, etc. I'm going to maintain that you, first of all, will never regret having more offense. And if you take the best players, you can tell them what you need them to do because they're very good players. Hockey IQ comes into play here and they'll figure it out. But one of the other great things about this is we can have a passionate discussion and dissection of a Hockey Canada selected team, because that's how much we are invested in this tournament. And it's one of my favorite things. God willing, it goes on, because finally it's the 2 weeks of the year that junior hockey gets to do in this country.
Couldn't agree with you more. My favorite time. Not a big fan of the Christmas holidays. Love the World Junior Tournament. It's the only reason I show up to Christmas dinner.
Absolutely.
Right? Give me Boxing Day hockey, baby. I'll be there. And the best thing about this whole argument and discussion, as you said, you called it a heated discussion or whatever. The best thing is we get to do it all again next year, because I'm sure there'll be someone else cut from the team like there is every year.
Yeah. Well,
right?
You make me think now when you mentioned Boxing Day. Our guest on the podcast this week never would have made a Team Canada team unless they had a role for a boxer. You see what I did there?
I did. I like that. I like that a lot. Is this our last podcast before the break?
Oh, good point. Yes, yeah. We should remind our very loyal listeners of this podcast of that very thing. Yes, we're going to take a couple of weeks off. You can enjoy the World Juniors. So we're going to be back with a podcast. Yeah. Well, either way, we'll be back with something, because, we'll have to update what's going on in the league, but we should be back the week after New Year's, right? January, I believe 6th is the Friday. So you'll see this one, and then they'll be gone for a few weeks, and we'll be back on January the 6th.
7th is the Friday.
So 7th is the Friday.
7th. Yeah.
There you go.
January I had 7th. To look it up. You just went off your brain, which I don't know how you do that.
Close, but no cigar.
It is today. Regardless, we've been recording this for 20 minutes and we still haven't mentioned. If you want to follow us on Twitter, at @Farwell_OHL, @_ Chris Pope, and hit us up on YouTube, Instagram, the whole deal, at OHL Stories. Let us know what you think of the podcast, or if you have any guests that you'd like to see on, make sure to just reach out and let us know.
We should really be better at that part, eh?
Yeah.
Reminding people.
You're really good at it.
You found that, yeah, but here you just mentioned 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
The email address, can I give it? Do you check it?
Yeah, please.
Okay. farwellandpope@gmail.com. But like Pope, you said, yeah, reach out anytime through any of the channels. Subscribe, follow, like, rate, whatever. Give us some feedback. We're more than happy to hear it.
And if I get one more email like Tyler sent me, I'm going to fight you. I'm just kidding. I just needed a segue. Much like our guest fought 98 times in his Ontario Hockey League career. Add to that, after he goes to the pro ranks in the AHL, he fought 45 times in his first season just to send a message that he wasn't going to turn any down. In the OHL, he played 178 games split between Windsor and Guelph. Again, 178 games. He had 748 penalty minutes. Quick Rain Man math, Farzy, that's just over 2 minutes per game.
Wow, good job, Popey.
Thanks. Almost like I didn't write it down. In the NHL, 336 games in the National League, 774 PIMs. So identical PIMs, but about 200 games difference. Because by the time you are drafted in the 4th round by New Jersey and you get to the league and you're taking on the likes of Wade Belak against Brian McGrattan and you're going for 2 or 3 minutes at center ice, people know you're not someone to mess with. And that is why Cam Janssen was known simply as Janny, and why you talk to anybody who knows him, initially in the first couple conversations, the word psychopath is used, like he used to describe himself in this podcast on OHL Stories.
I'm always fascinated by these stories, Cam, so I got to start right here. How does a kid from Missouri end up with the Windsor Spitfires in the Ontario Hockey League of Canada?
I have no idea. Well, think about that for a second. Like, I'm from Eureka, Missouri. Honestly, my parents never played. No one in my family's ever played hockey. Nobody in the Janssen family, military, hardcore construction, tough people, you know. No one's ever played hockey, but they loved the Blues. The Blues in St. Louis, they were obsessed with hockey. They never played it. They didn't know anything about it, but they liked to watch Brett Hull. So my parents would take me to games. They'd take me to Cardinals games, by the way, which dominates in St. Louis, the St. Louis Cardinals, gigantic. And I'd be like this, What am I doing? Oh, daddy. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, the arch. Cool. Blah, blah, blah. But then he took me to a Blues game and he brought me down to the glass and he goes, look. And Hawley with no bucket on, snapping pucks, hit the glass and hit me. Tony Twist with no bucket on, looking jacked, hit the glass. Kelly Chase hit the glass. They all did. And I'm like, ugh. And then Chaser and Twister, besides Hawley scored 2 goals that night. But I remember, and my memory is so messed up from fighting and all that, but I remember this vividly. Chaser and Twister beat the hell out of guys. And Twister goes in the penalty box, takes all his stuff off, like, wah, and he flexes muscles. And the women in the crowd went crazy. And I'm like, as a child, like, oh, wow, I want to be that. Twister with his tattoo of Tony the Tiger, he's flexing for everybody. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I want to be something like this. How can I do it? And that's how I got into hockey.
So is that where you got the ripping everything off when you get in the box and flex into the crowd?
Are you kidding? You're damn right. Why wouldn't I do that? Now the OHL had to sign a thing for me not to do that anymore. I think the Guelph Storm had to tell me I can't do that anymore. But that's the Twister did it, and I'm like, I want to be you, and so I did it, and they told me not to. Who cares? But that's how I get. So I tell hockey parents in St. Louis. Now hockey in St. Louis now is gigantic. I was the first one to ever do it. Now there's kids out the wazoo. There's kids that are retiring like Ben Bishop that have like 50 million bucks in their pocket after playing. Think about that. It's gone a long way. But when we first saw them, like it's the coolest thing in the world. You're so intimate. You're right there. They hit the glass for you. They wink. Twister and Chaser are like walking around, they're skating around like I'm the bad boy. And you could just feel the emotion from the crowd. And even as a kid, I'm like, that's what I want. And so I just started playing roller hockey and all that stuff. But that's how my parents got me into it, take me to a Blues game.
Okay, since we're on the subject of hockey in St. Louis and how huge it is now, how much did that Stanley Cup mean?
Oh, the lower you be. Okay, let me give you a timeline, homeboy. So they first get in 67, right? Bobby Plager, all the buddies back in the day. They're playing Montreal expansion team. They get killed, but they're going three state Stanley Cups. And the city was like, this is a cool sport. We love our baseball, football at the time, whatever, which always, comes and goes in St. Louis. Don't get into that because they're very sensitive. But people were like, what is this sport? This is cool. Bobby Plager with the slick back hair. He did his thing. You lost to Montreal. You lost to Bobby Orr. It's all good. But it was staunch in the city. And people got into it. Now, they went through the 70s. Then they went through the 80s, which was Bernie Federko was coming in. You had, Sutters, this, that, and the other. But you weren't there. You weren't grabbing the kids yet, right? Bernie was good. He's a Hall of Famer. He did great, but it didn't connect with the city. And I'm being completely honest. They were about to sell that team to Saskatoon. Could you imagine that, by the way? You ask Brett Hall about that. He pukes in his mouth. He's like, oh God, what would I do? So then the Golden Brett came. He had his slick back hair. He was everywhere. When I was a kid, and I'm going to say it again, we would go to McDonald's in St. Louis. And I would make my dad go around twice just to get his little cup and then get his little action figure and then get this and then get that and get that and get that. He was everywhere. He was a god in this town, more than any of the baseball players, more than anybody. He had the look. He was scoring 86 goals. And all of us kids that made it in the early 2000s got into hockey because of Brett Hall.
I feel like there's a million Brett Hall stories out there, and everyone seems to have one. But as a kid who got to grow up watching him and idolizing a guy like Brett Hall, what was it like when you met him?
Hey, let me tell you a funny story on that. So, my parents are blue collar, right? Very blue collar badasses. They just are. But my dad, they'd always spoil us. I was spoiled as a kid. I had a good upbringing. I did. I had to figure it out, and I had to be tough, and I didn't have any money to fall on. None of that. My parents didn't have any connections with anybody with anything. But they were good to me, really good to me. And my dad was a social guy. People loved my dad. They loved him and my uncle and all that stuff. So there's this bar called the Trainwreck Saloon, where it's in Brentwood, Missouri. And Brett Hall and all the guys would always be in there. And my dad and my uncle knew the owner of it. So when I was 6 years old, We had a little lake house at the Lake of the Ozarks, a little cabin that all of our family like had to throw money in. We had a little boat out there and stuff like that. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was quite lovely. And it was actually a pain in the ass when all your family owns something together, you end up hating each other. That's not the point. Here's my story. We go down there. My dad's talked to all the kids. We're like, we have a surprise for you. We're like, oh, what is it, Dad? Is it a go-kart? Is it this? Is it whatever? They're like, stop it. We're going down. We're going to show you. So my dad takes us in a boat, goes to this little cove and finds this big boat. And we're like, wow, look at that big boat. And I'm like, what is it, Dad? Is it like a ski thing or something? We're like, what? All of a sudden we pull up and we see that blonde hair boy come out, Brett Hall. And me and my cousins are like, oh my God. Brett Hall was out with the owner of the Trainwreck Saloon in a boat in the middle of a cove in Lake of the Ozarks. We got to hang out with him. I remember sitting there and I'm riding him like he was on all these weird commercials where it's like with Boatman's Bank and he did this, that. And I'm like, draw him a picture. Like, I need to do something to this guy. And I'm like, da, da, da. And I remember giving it to him and he's like, oh, cool. And he throws it away or whatever. But I hung out with him for 4 hours. We skied together. I talked to him as a child. It was the most unbelievable thing in the world. And look, all you parents out there, man, because that's who we're talking to. We're talking to parents that have kids and little things like that. You take them to games, you introduce them to somebody that they look up to. That stuck in my head so much to where I wanted to be that so bad, to where you go above and beyond. You know your vision. And as a kid, like you want, if you have kids, and I don't get me wrong, but I just know you want your kid to have a vision. And if you just take them places like that, I know it costs money. I know it's like this, that, and the other, but it sticks with them. And that stuck with me. And I just wanted to be a hockey player and it worked out. Sorry, I'm long-winded, whatever.
It's great.
Okay.
That's what we like. We like
That's
it.
right. Stories. That's what it's all about.
Good.
How did your parents feel about a young Cam Janssen becoming a little more like Twister and Chaser than the Golden Brett on the ice?
Well, dude, I didn't know hockey. I didn't know. Okay, you think my dad's like, hey, when you get the puck on the wall, do this. Like, I just had to figure things out. Like, I'm faster than guys. I'm stronger than guys. I'm more willing. I got a little bit of skill. Like I could get off me. I could take the puck to the net. I'd score a bunch of goals. But then I had that psycho in me, where I'd penalty kill in AAA, where we go up to these tournaments in like Toronto Marley tournament up in Guelph, up in Toronto, all that stuff. And no one cared about the junior amateur blues at the time. Although we had a couple of guys that made the NHL from our team, Joey Vitale, myself. I mean, it is what it is. But we go up there and we get killed. But I would score 4 goals. We'd lose 8-4, but I'd score 4 goals and I'd put guys down. I'd put them down. Coming around the net, I'd come and I'd stick them so hard, bam. And these scouts are like, what? And I wore number 16, by the way, because my dad's like, you better wear Holly, because everybody's looking for 16, so wear it. And I would crush guys. And at that point, you could do what you want back in the day. And I'd score goals, get a breakaway, and then agents were coming up to my dad, stuff like that. I'd get all this attention. And I just knew when I was young, 12, 13, 14, I knew I had something. And I would stick out in front of these big tournaments that we were invited to, knowing we're gonna get our asses kicked, but they were looking at the other team we're playing. But if you stick out, you stick out. My dad would always say, there's people watching, go bring it, go bring the heat. And I did it. So that's how I got my, attention. And then of course, Windsor drafted me and all that, blah, 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 blah.
Perfect segue, because I think Windsor was the perfect team to draft you with that old barn, because the fans were psycho and you're psycho. So it just worked out perfectly. What was it like when you dropped the gloves and beat the tar out of somebody in that rink?
Let me tell you a funny story, dude. I was so aloof to reality. I always wanted attention, man. Like I wanted to be different. Like you're walking around high school in St. Louis, there's good looking girls everywhere. And I'm like, my parents didn't have money. And I'm just like, I'm trying to be cool. And they just like, well, I'm like, and your other buddies that have money and stuff, that the girls would be there. I'm like, I got to do something. And my dad, I was hanging out with weird guys at the time. My dad's like, figure it out. And I'm like, hockey's the way to be different. I know it sounds like very self-induced, but I was though. That's like, I wanted to be different than everybody else. And so I just got into it, and I worked my butt off. I played juniors for the St. Louis Sting in the North American Hockey League. I fought like 40 times that year as like a 15, 16-year-old. I was playing the game. I didn't learn much with the game, but Windsor drafted me. I remember being up there with my dad and be like, where are we? I remember telling my buddies, I got drafted to the OHL. They're like, oh, is that the NHL? I'm like, no, dude, I'm like 15 years old, dude. No, it's the OHL. But they all went up there and watched me play, and I put a show on for them. But I remember when Windsor drafted me, and we're like, okay, wow, these jerseys are cool. I remember saying that to Mike Kelly. Like, I like these jerseys. He's like, okay, we got work to do with you, kid. Like, I just had no idea, dude. My dad's a waterproofer. My mom's working at like Clayton Prison in St. Louis. They have no idea about anything. Now I'm moving to Canada at 16, 17 years old, and I got to go be a heavyweight. At 5'11", I got to be a heavyweight in a different country, living with an 85-year-old couple. How am I going to do that? You just do it.
You just do it.
Just do it, homeboy.
Was there a player that you remember, Janny, in the early days that you kind of had to step up against to become that heavyweight? Because I remember by the time you got to Guelph, you were that guy early on.
God.
Who did you have to unseat? Whose title did you have to take?
Well, you just gotta be a bad boy every night, dude. It's not like I gotta fight that one guy that one time. No, it's like I'm gonna come in, dude. I remember being so intimate with the fans. I never had that kind of attention. I craved attention. I wanted to have attention. And I go into that barn in Windsor, that badass barn, mean, rugged, hardcore, old school, historic. And I remember going in there and these fans would chant my name and I would get so jacked up and I would do anything. Like I'd run guys over and then score and then go like this to the crowd, like, wah! And then go in the penalty box, take everything off and flex everybody like a sideshow. Like I craved it. I craved it. So it wasn't like I need to go fight that guy. No. I just did it because I wanted it every night. So whoever it was that night, I'm like, I'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. I got 6,000 people chanting my name. I'm going to high school here. Girls are all over you. And I'm like, you're in the paper. I'm like, I want to put it all together. So it just gave you motivation. My mom and dad were 1,000, 2,000 miles away. They're trying to get a hold of me. There's no cell phones at the time. I'm living with an 85-year-old couple that like watch me sleep at night. I love them, but they got, it's just, my parents are lenient and I'm with like a strict, oh God, the things that you got to just kind of go through. Now it's not military, but on the other hand, it's different. And I just had to suck it up every night, but I invited the fan base and that got me going. And man, oh man, I went on the ice and I wanted to put a show on every night.
You did put a show on most nights in the OHL. But you had a couple of guys on your team that also weren't scared to put a show on, like a guy like Steve Ott or Josh Gratton. What was it like on those teams where you're looking around the room and you're like, we're just going to go out there and beat the tar off this team?
Let me say something real quick. When you come from nothing, really, not nothing, like my parents are awesome to me, right? So I'm not like I came from like a hardcore North County, like some football players do, where they got to get out of. But it was more like, there's still not much, especially in the hockey world. So when I went into Windsor, and I'm living as a 17-year-old with an 85-year-old couple, who I have to kind of be like, I'm kind of crazy. My parents are lenient, and I gotta like be like, and it's just an adjustment one way or the other. But next door, one of our assistant coaches was billeting Stevie Ott. And he just got drafted, what was it, like 20th overall. And at that time, he signed for $1 million. And I remember looking over there through the glass at my teammate right across the street, and he bought a brand new Cadillac Escalade. He had a beautiful girlfriend that her parents owned a house that they owned a tool and die company that had bowling alleys in there. And I'm looking at this is another thing, dude, I'm saying, and I look at him like, I want to be you. You have money, you have fame, you have how did you get, I'm 17, and this guy is only a couple years older than me. He has $1 million in his pocket, driving the most fancy, Jason Spezza, driving the most fancy car, $1 million in his pocket before he even made the NHL. And you're just watching, you're like, how can I not fight anybody? I'll do anything to get there. I know, like you look at other guys, they're just like, like, don't you see that? Don't you want to be the best? Look at Stevie Ott right now, dude. He's showing he's the coolest guy in the world. Man, I looked up to him so much, but you see these guys really make it. and all my buddies didn't have any money. Like I just wanted to be that, man. And hey, look, you play in the OHL, you see guys that make money, real money, not your mommy and daddy's money, your money that you made. And it's like, that is the most motivational thing you possibly imagine.
We hear often, Cam, that it gets tough, or it can be tough for guys that play the kind of role you played in the game, from junior right on through pro. Did it get tough for you? Were there nights where you're just like, I don't know if I can do this?
Hell yeah, dude. Dude, I was addicted to painkillers too, hardcore through some bad times. And I don't want to get too much into it, but I was, meaning imagine having the flu, times that by 1,000,000, and add depression on that, and then go fight Brian McGrattan for 3 minutes. Like I had to do that, and then be fake in the locker room because you're Cam, you're happy, Cam. But I got addicted, man. But it's all my fault. Everything I've done, it's all self-induced. I don't blame the league. I don't blame anybody. It's my fault. But I went through hell and back, even leading up to times, man, leading up, and all my buddies are texting me in St. Louis, oh, your family's there. I don't want to get knocked out in front of my mom. She's seen enough. I've aged her already. Like, I don't want to get knocked out. Like now I'm like cold and like withdrawing. Like I went through it. Dude, I lived the party life to an extreme, but the bad times, self-induced wise, was so bad to where I had to get help here and there. And it was tough, man. But again, that was all on me. But man, oh man, like I look back on everything, I've learned so much. But to your question, was there nights where I'm like, I got to fight this? God, yes. Every night. It was stressful until I went on the ice and I go, I don't give a damn. Let's go. I don't care if I felt crappy that day. I don't care if I'm withdrawing off painkillers. I didn't care. Leading up to it, the pregame skate, the nap, I was like, oh God, help me, daddy, help me. And then once I went on the ice, I go, F everything. Let's go. Be the man. My dad, I would always call my dad before I went on the ice. And he'd be like, you're the toughest. He was such a good motivator. He didn't know anything about hockey. He should be in the Hall of Fame here in St. Louis, like I am, the Amateur Hall of Fame. He should be, but he doesn't want to. But the way he was a hockey dad was so damn good. And he knew how to motivate me, even when I was down and out, and I still did it. So to answer your question, all the time was I hardcore, man. When it comes, oh God. How long is this? Because I got,
we got all the time in the world for you, Janie, especially guys who like to tell stories. Like
I don't want to scare people because everything's good. Everything was good. I live in a great house now. My wife's awesome. I got animals everywhere. We're all good. But I went through hell and back. But I don't blame anybody but myself. Just so you guys know. Is that cool?
That's cool.
All right.
To a happier moment in the OHL when you get that trade to Guelph. How did you find out?
Oh God, here's an arse. You're dragging me down crazy story time,
buddy.
Right.
I got a couple more for you. Just hold on.
Let me say it. I'll say it. All right, because you guys are Guelph boy. I don't usually do podcasts that much anymore, just so you know. But you guys are you, and I'm like, hell yeah, I owe it to you because you guys are all. Guelph was so good to me, man. They were so damn good to me. So here's how that trade went down. So I was a big dog in Windsor, man. Like I was good with the fans. Like if you trade me away, like it's kind of a big deal there at the time. Now I'm not Connor McDavid or anything, but as far as what I did for the fans and stuff, like they loved me. And so my buddies were in town and we partied that night so hard. And I had no idea I was getting traded. And my buddies are in town, we're going out and I'm getting treated like gold. You're 19, 18, 19. You're walking in back of clubs while all my other buddies are at like high school parties. Like, no, I'm cool. Where I'm going in the back of clubs with like, whatever. I don't need to get too dirty. But yeah. And so we all party that night, all night long, hardcore party. And look, if y'all know in Windsor, if you want to party, you can find whatever you want. It's there. And if you people know who you are, they're going to give you whatever you want. It's a long night, if you catch my drift. I wake up that morning, horrid, down and like, you're like, and I got a bunch of text messages or calls or something at the time. I remember I had to go back to my billet house. I drive back to my billet house with all my buddies. And there's cars in the driveway. And it's my coach and a bunch of the players. And I'm with my buddies and we're so like, oh God, help me. Oh Lord, I'm going to hell, which we probably are. But we go into my billet house and they're all crying. I go, oh. I go, I'm getting arrested. What did we do last night? I go, what did we do? I'm like kidding. I go, oh, wait, what did we do? And they're crying. I go, what happened? And then the coach comes up to me and he goes, Cam, we love you, but we traded you to Guelph. And I go, oh, thank God. And then they start crying again. And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. And it just was the most bizarre goddamn thing. And so we partied that night, by the way. Then I go to Guelph and, the coaches come in my porch. I signed. So I had like a big, a big Suburban, and we were partying that thing all night. And I remember going to Guelph after my billets are crying and stuff like that, which is like the best thing for me. But I go to Guelph and the coaches are like, hey, Cam, we're gonna go out to lunch. I'm like, okay. They're like, but we're gonna come in your car. Can you drive? I go, oh God. They get in my truck, which my buddies had all weekend. And they're like, interesting. This is interesting. I'm like, my buddies had my car. I'm like, oh God, who knows what's in it? Anyway, it is what you could edit that out. It doesn't matter. The point is, it was a crazy time. It worked out. The city was pissed, but they got like a first round pick and all that stuff. And it just needed to happen. And Mike Kelly, I'm gonna give you a little shout out. I love you, Mike Kelly. I love him. He was so sweet to me. And I was crazy. And he accepted that and he believed in me. And I love him. He drafted me, Mike Kelly. But he traded me and I needed that. And I went on to a powerhouse team and I learned how to play in the playoffs. And that helped me make the NHL at 20, 21 years old.
Again, real quick, Farsi, if I can follow up real quick.
Yeah.
Jenny, you don't know this, but I was at the Storm training camp that season, was playing junior B in Guelph that year you got traded. My best friend to this day didn't play for the Guelph Storm after you got there. You stole his number, actually. I still bug him about it to this day. 14, yep. Oh, but I got a couple buddies that are still on that team, and they told the story of the first day you walked into that room. And you walk in and you look like you're carrying 2 suitcases full of money, shoulders out. Yep. Big dog is in town, boys. Yep. Was it something? Did you want to walk into that room and let everyone know,
yes,
my room now? Yeah.
No, not my. No. Not my room now. More like I'm your buddy. Yeah, like we're all buddies.
Yeah.
Not like I own it. No. Ryan Callahan was there. Martin St. Pierre. All the Nico. All those guys. No. I was like, I'm here for you. I played you guys 2 months ago and I crushed dudes. And I crushed guys. And I remember like going by their bench, like I own all y'all. Now I'm like, no, I'm here, dudes. Let's win this thing. Let's all win. It's not like I'm nah, I can't do that. So does that make sense though? Like
it does, yeah.
But I am cocky as shit. And I walked in with 2 suitcases like I'm Jack, but I want them to know that I mean business.
I heard you were very intense in the room.
Yeah, I needed to figure out I'd never been traded before. I was still a kid. I didn't know how to react. And these guys were so professional. They were like just doing things before practice. Like Ryan Callahan would have a cup out there in the middle of the thing and everybody, let's play a thing where we're getting dressed and we just play a little thing. And I'm like, that's interesting. And everybody played country music and like it was organized and the practices were hardcore and it was just different. And I'm like, this is a championship team. These guys are big boys. They're all drafted too. I was like the only one that signed in Windsor. I was like, look, when you're playing in juniors and you sign, you're drafted, you're just forced and you're popular. You're forced to be the guy, right? And I just needed to get with guys on, they were better than me. And not that they weren't in Windsor, but like just more status wise. And you go there and you're like, oh, and you're humbled. And you're like, no, Cam, just chill. You don't have to be crazy. Just do your thing and adjust. And then we went out there and kicked ass. We did. That was an unbelievable team. And I was friends with everybody and we had such a good time. Now, we could have done better in the Memorial Cup, but we beat London. We won a championship for the city. We partied hard that night.
Trappers.
No, dude. Don't even get me started. My memory's not that good, but I know I had a good time that night.
We can definitely talk about that Memorial Cup, but on the way there, and you've touched on it, like you knew when you got traded to Guelph, you were traded to a championship team, but there was adversity even in the playoffs. Owen Sound took you to 7 games in the first round.
100%. I remember too. It's so funny. You're 100% right on that. But walking that locker room, I knew it was different. So just so you guys know, family, parents listening, like every locker room is different, and what the difference is. And I walked in that locker room. You had old school guys that played 5 years. they're drafted, they signed, they're going to play in the NHL, they're going to do this. And I just knew it. And that wasn't the case in Windsor. But you're right. And I remember one time against Owen Sound. And look, when you're that age, like you get a little cocky, like you get a lot of attention. And it's juniors and you're making money and no one else is, or maybe a couple of guys. So you just get like complacent, right? And I remember Sean Camp, our coach, who was awesome, by the way, unbelievable coach. He was so perfect for what we had. I remember him grabbing me one time because we went to game 7 with that Owen Sound. And he goes, I was chirping guys being just an ass. And he's sitting me down. He goes, you ain't playing good enough to be that way. And I go, oh. I go, you're right. Settle down, Cam. Get back to normal. Get back down. You ain't that cool. You're still playing third. Like, you ain't that cool. Like, get back to normal. And that switch hit me. I'm like, okay, let's go, guys. Let's do this. And then we went out there and just figured out a way to win. My line scored a big goal sometime of whatever. We found a way to not get I was getting penalties and shit. I was doing stupid things like trying to be a tough guy. No, play the damn game. Lou Lamoriello was watching me. All the Devils were watching me. They drafted me. I had to do something. And I remember Sean Camp, he put me in my place in front of everyone. And I was like the cool guy. Yeah, no, you're not. And he put me in my place and I figured it out. So all you coaches, all you dads, sometimes you got to be humbled. Now, don't rip guys left and right. Like, there's a balance to it. But, man, he put me in my place. I'm like, oh, okay. You catch my drift on that?
For sure. You mentioned that Owen Sound rivalry. It seemed like, as to me, watching that series and watching that regular season, it seemed like every time you played Owen Sound, you fought Adam Smythe.
Yeah. He's a big, tough kid, dude. He's a big farm boy. Of course I'm going to fight him every time. I'm going to say no. I caught him one time with the left, and I buckled him pretty good. But we went toe-to-toe. I fought Brandon Pruss tons, like Brian, just everybody. I fought everybody. I fought like 40 times a year. But when I learned, when I played for Guelph, is to play that third line with Jacob, and then Spursy.
Kyle Spursy.
Oh, sweetheart. Oh, Lord. What a sweetheart of a human being.
Another tough guy.
Oh, love him. And we just crushed guys, kept the puck alive. I didn't take stupid penalties. I figured it out. And after that year that we won, Lou Lamoriello knew that I was a step more. Like, I'm a fourth line plug. He knows what I'm going to do with what if he drafts me. But when I played that playoff series, getting good minutes, contributing, hitting consistently, staying out of the box, winning games in high pressure situations, that helped my career so much, man. And look, I'm not, Ricky Nash. I know that. But in the OHL, you get cocky because you get popular real quick if you're a tough guy. You just do. You think that you're better than what you are. And sometimes you need to get put down a little bit.
You talk about fighting Prusty. That Guelph London rivalry was incredible, right? And that's who you meet in the West Final that year. And you're up 3-1 and they come back and force a 7th game. You got to win in their barn. Do you remember going into that 7th game and the feeling like how confident or how much confidence were you lacking?
Now, listen, my memory is not that good. Okay. There's a lot of shit that went down. Like, let's be honest here. But I think I did score a big time goal in that game, but I couldn't take penalties, man. Like, I just remember, like, I can't take penalties. Like, sometimes when you're a little wild, like, you think that it's about you, and it's just not. It's just not. So I just remember in my back of my head, like, just like, hit guys clean, do what you have to do, get that damn puck out of the zone. It's not about you. It's not a sideshow. You don't have to fight anybody. Go win the damn game. Everybody's intimidated of you. You got the puck all the time. You're fast. Get in deep. Use your line mates. And like, I know that's corny, but I remember like thinking that. And I scored a goal. I think I scored a goal in that game. You guys, I don't, but there was something that we did that I didn't take stupid penalties, and we won. And they had a powerhouse, and it just makes you a better player when you're in situations like that. When the TV's on you, the cameras are on you, man. You're playing against London, dude. Like, you're playing against the big boys. Like, everybody, all the attention's on you. Like, don't do stupid things. Go play the game. Learn it. I always thought Lou Lamoriello is watching you. There's somebody like, remember that. It's not about you. It's not about you. I don't care how popular you are. Just take care of your teammates. And we did that.
We'll get to Lou in a minute, I'm sure, because I'm sure there's some good Lou stories. But I got to ask, I reached out to a couple guys who were on that Storm team trying to get some dirt on you. And I didn't have enough room in the phone. But one of the guys, he wasn't sure if you were there, but were you in the casino in Kelowna when Dave Barr came in?
Man, dude, and during the Memorial Cup. Okay, I'll tell a story. I love Barzy. He was my coach with the assistant coach of the Devils. Speaking of cocky, like, God, I was just so out of my mind. Oh God, no wonder. Thank God the Devils drafted me, so I was this humble. Lou made me humble, and I wasn't even a big dog. Like, but you're used to not being anything. You go home and your buddies are just like still living with their parents and stuff, and like, I'm about to buy a house because I got a couple $100,000. Like, you're cocky, man. Like, and you're beating guys up, and girls are on. Like, you're just like, I'm just in a different world. But you have to settle that down. You just have to, because they're all going to gain on you. Like, everybody's going to gain on you. You got there before everybody else did. My buddies all make a lot more money than I do now, although we do all good. But it's like, you were there before they were, and you just get this weird sense about you. But I remember my parents were in Kelowna, and we like rented like a Denali. I had a little bit of money at the time, so I took care of it, and we were cruising around where it's like hanging out. Like, it was like a cool thing to do. Like, you're there. And the weird thing about the Memorial Cup is, like, you have to wait so long. You celebrate and then you wait and you're like, what are we doing again? Oh, we got to do it again. Right. It's just like the hardest trophy ever to win. But I remember we lose, and we were playing pretty good. We lost in overtime a couple of times, a couple of posts from Callahan, stuff like that. But I remember going on the bus when we lost, and I packed a cooler because I knew I was gone, dude. Like, that's another thing, by the way. When you play juniors, you signed, you're drafted, like you're playing the American League next year. Plus, you're beating guys up, like, you're gone. So you don't care. So I packed a cooler and I brought him on the bus. And Dave Barr, who's the coolest, smartest guy ever, I love him, grabbed the cooler, and we had a like FU match getting on the bus as a 19-year-old trying to get beer. And I just remember that my parents were in the parking lot in Kelowna watching, and my dad's like, what are you doing? It was so embarrassing. But what you're talking about, the bar, I don't remember, but I was probably like the head guy trying to do weird things.
I heard there was a group in the casino, and Barzy came in and wasn't too happy that the group was in a casino during the Memorial Cup.
We won. Well, like, it's like the way we won, it was like we sweep Mississauga. We're like the King Dicks, and we're like, we sit for a while, and I know everybody else does, but it's like, we're in Kelowna, and we're in like party mode. It's just very weird. It's a hard mindset to get back into. Mm-hmm. Like, it really is. I'm ready to go home and hang out with my like friends that go to school, and they're all like reading about you up there and stuff. And like, I want to like go show off to them. And you're just like, oh, we have another tournament. Well, didn't we just win? It's just, I'm from Missouri, so I'm not into the, Hockey Night in Canada every night. Like, you just know the Memorial. I just wasn't into it. So we hung out, we did our thing, but we could have won that. I mean, Kelowna won, but we missed some posts and stuff like that. But we hit it pretty hard, and that was somewhat of our demise.
You mentioned Barzy.
Fine. I don't give a damn.
It was Janny's fault. Remember that, 04.
Always my fault. Ask my wife.
You mentioned Barzy as that assistant coach in New Jersey. He was an assistant to Pete DeBoer, who would have been an opposing head coach for you in the OHL. What was it like having him for a head coach?
Kate, can you get the dogs in line? Thank you. Dude, well, Pete DeBoer is just, you coaching Kitchener, great guy. He's hard on you, man. Like, you just got to be disciplined. Look, it's not even like Pete. It's more Lou. If you play for Lou, thank you, baby girl. If you play for Lou, it's all about Lou. So if Pete's mad at me, Lou's mad at me, right? But if Lou's happy with me, Pete's happy with me. Like, like I just have to go do my damn thing. And sometimes Pete, I'll walk by and I love Pete. He's a cool cat, man. I got to get him on the podcast too, by the way. But sometimes I walk past him and he wouldn't say a word to me. I'm like, oh God, you know how that feels, right? If you walk by your boss and you're like, hi, and you're like, oh God. And Lou would do the same. I would think mental torture, but they didn't mean to do it. But I didn't play good the night before. It's just like, you just got to be consistent. All you parents out there, man. Look, and let me give an example real quick. this Nathan Walker kid's coming up to St. Louis right now. St. Louis is banged up big time. So they got this Aussie kid who's actually from Wales, which is like the most beautiful place in the world, castle-wise and all that. Moves to Australia. He's an Aussie, badass kid. But he comes up and he scores a bunch of goals in a couple days, right? A couple goals, couple days. And everybody's like, oh, God, he's the best. I'm like, just wait. Because you have to be consistent. All you parents out there, it's not what your kid does every 2 nights. He scores 3 goals. It's what they do every damn night. That mentality where you have to smack yourself in the face and be like, get up, get up, get up. Let's go. Get up, get going. Not like, man, it's good. I got to use my skill. No, get up, smack yourself in the face. Get up. That's what you got. If you want to play a long time, you have to do it consistently. This Nathan Walker, he might do it. I love him. Great guy. But you have to do it every damn day. And that's the hardest damn thing in the world. You have to look at yourself in the mirror in Buffalo, in Winnipeg, in wherever, in Binghamton, in American League, and look in the mirror before you go on the ice and smack yourself in the face. Like, get up, get up. People are watching. You have to be consistent every damn night. That's how you succeed. I don't know what the question was. That's my ending to it.
I love it.
Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely. No, it makes complete sense. You talked about Lou. He called you after he drafted you. What did he say?
Okay. I mean, I don't remember, but look, you want to talk about Lou. You know how much I love my mommy and daddy, man. And you can chirp me all you want. I live next to them. I love them so much. I drive by there. I live in a nice, fancy ass house. Oh my God. I go to my parents' house every damn day. They listen to me every single day on the radio, on my podcast, on everything. Their whole life revolves around me. I love them more than anything in the world. But Lou Lamoriello is my second father. I've never had anybody I was so intimidated of. When I was 16 years old, 15 years old, my dad was the baddest ass dude, handsome, cool. Everybody loved my dad. The girls I dated loved my dad, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. He's not weird, but it's just, my dad was cool as shit. And I was at a point where I was making money. I didn't have anybody to calm me down. You know, you get cocky, man. Everybody wants to be a party. You get cocky, you're beating guys up. Lou settled me down. I was so intimidated of that man in a good way. He helped me so much. He brought me in the room in front of the guys and goes, I'm sending you home. And I'm like, oh God, I don't have anything. What'd you do last night? What'd you do last? I was horrified. And then he pumped me up so much where I'm like, I'm going to go bleed for you. I'll do anything for you. He helped me out. He was my first boss. He was so damn good. He loved to get guys that were from Nova Scotia, from Eureka, Missouri, from this, that maybe their parents didn't have money. Their parents maybe drank too much. They have a little thing, and he'd take them, Cowan White, to all these guys, man. My love them. And he'd take them and he'd help them. And if you messed up a little bit, he'd get you. And you're like, oh God. But then the next day you're like, no, can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. I'm the man. I'm not leaving here. I'm not going home. What do I got? Am I going to go to NASA? Am I going to be what? What am I going to do? Asphalt seal? I'm not doing that. So I had to figure it out. Lou was so damn good to me, but he scared me like you can't believe. And if I see him now, I own all my own stuff. I make good money, decent money, not good. I'm not, but I do well. I live in a nice, lovely, my wife's good. Everything's good. But if I saw Lou Lamoriello, I'd shave. I'd look at him like this, still not to this day, and he doesn't hire me for anything. That guy meant so much to me. I can't even explain it to you, just so you know. So if anybody chirps him, you gotta let me know. They messed up, and I'm not even gonna cuss. They messed up. I know how he thinks. He will help you, dude. So you know.
What about Larry Robinson, this kid from Missouri that idolized Brett Hull? What does it mean when Larry Robinson's your first head coach in the National Hockey League?
God, was he the coolest? Oh my God, Larry, I love you so much. Look, I don't love everybody. I know I'm like lovey-dovey tonight, but I don't love everybody. But Larry's just so cool, man. Like, God, you could talk to him. You could talk to him. You could be like, Larry, what am I doing? And he'd be like, dude, just do this. Put the stick there. Camera. Just do this. Open your hips up. And when you're on the wall, when Dad Soup tries to open your hips up, like whatever. He has so much knowledge. He's so easy to deal with. He's so fun. He's always happy. But when he's pissed, if Larry's mad at you, you're doing something wrong. Now, if Lou's mad at you, your shaving could be wrong, right? Does that make sense? Like there's like a difference. If Larry's pissed at you, you really did something. Like you're a baby on the bench, or you're flamingo on the point, or some crap like that. Larry is so awesome. I love that man. He's so cool. Dude, he just does his thing. Watch his highlights on YouTube, all you guys. Just watch him. He's just, and I had him on the podcast. He's just so down to earth and cool. His wife's cool. Everybody. He was really good to me, man. He was really good to everybody. Now, sometimes you're too good and too happy, and you can't. That's not good for a head coach. And maybe that was, but I don't think he wants to be a dick to people, you know. So that's why he's just like people. Look, Larry can do what he wants. There's teams right now that are like, here, I'll pay you $1 million. Just hang out with the guys. That's when you know you're a pimp. Just so you know.
That team, you walk into that room, there's Gianta, Gomez, Langenbrunner, Rafalski, Elias, Parise, McGillney, and a guy named Brodeur.
Oh, Lord.
What was it like every day?
Listen, dude, I'm such an idiot, but I'm smart in ways. When I was a kid and I was loud in the locker room and trying to be funny, and the guys would just bash me so bad because they liked me. They didn't talk to me. It means they don't like you. But they liked me, and I would force my way to hang out with everybody. I didn't want to hang out with Zach Parise. I love Zach, but at the time he didn't know anybody. He's just a kid. Travis Zajac, great guy now, whatever you call him. He's a Devils Hall of Fame. But like they didn't know anybody. They didn't know the city. They didn't know anything. So I was like, "Hi, Marty. I'm coming out with you tonight. Hi, Richard Matvichuk. Hi, Colin White. Hi, John Madden, Jay Pandolfo, Scotty Gama. I'm hanging out with you, and you're gonna like it." And they'd be like, "Okay, Cam, come on." And I'd force myself to hang out with the guys. Now I know what they're talking about. Now I get the game. Because if you hang out with I tell these young guys, I go, hang out with the older guys. Because if you hang out with the young guys, they don't know a damn thing about anything. They don't even know where they're going. They're getting ripped off at the sushi place. I'm hanging out with the older guys. I go, take me with you. And I'd be funny with them, and they take care of me, and they teach me stuff. You just listen and you learn from these old school veterans. They'd pay for your beer. They'd pay for your sushi. That's not it, but it's more the knowledge part where we'd all sit around and you just hear what they say about the coach. You hear what they say about the practice. You hear what they say about the power play. You hear what they say about everything, and you just absorb it like a goddamn sponge. And I just never want to hang out with anybody else but them. And that's what you do. And they took care of me, man. And I was annoying. And they made me cry a couple of times too, by the way. You know,
Can we hear those stories?
And I was a tough guy, and they made me cry.
Yeah, well, this podcast shows you're a softie at heart, though, Jenny.
I am, dude. Don't you mess with my puppies and my, my little kitty cat. Where's she at, by the way? She should be in here. I think Kate locked them out so they wouldn't bug me. But,
when you mentioned old school, that just brought me back to this. Look, you said earlier, you could have 40, 45 fights a season. That's a different, it's 20 years ago, but it's a different game today. We talk about this a lot. Tell me about the game today from your perspective compared to when you played it.
Well, I love it. I watch it every damn night. I do, and I dissect it. I have a 3-hour radio show I got to do. I got a podcast. I got to know my stuff. And whether I like it or not, you still got to know it. Like, you still got to know it. And I still love the game. I love the skill part. Like, I wish I could do the things that Zegras is doing, things like that. Now, John Tortorella, when he says a couple things like, now when he chirps Connor McDavid, there might be some truth to that. Look, all these coaches are nerds. I'll say, no. Listen to me. All these coaches that don't have jobs, or they do have jobs, they're all hockey nerds to a point where they are so psychotic. They all call each other. They talk. So when John Tortorella, although he's a crazy guy, which we like, I don't mind him. I've had a bunch of guys on that they like him. When he chirps Connor McDavid, and all the writers like, well, there's a little truth to it. You do need to change your game in a little way. Like, there's got to be a little bit. Now, when he said to Trevor Zegras thing, don't do that kind of stuff, I'm like, yeah, whatever. No, you want guys to be. The point is with the Trevor Zegras thing is like, what the hell are you doing, Buffalo, with your defense? Like, take them out. Like, get away. You can still hit guys. So my point is, like, I don't mind me versus Brian McGrath and Tao, like that ain't happening no more, dude. But there's some badass defensemen that will rock you, and you still got to stick up for yourself. And it's all skill guys fighting skill guys, and that emotion's still there, and that respect value is still there. And if you want to kill a guy, I shouldn't say kill, you want to hit a guy hard in the chest, Jacob Trouba style, you can. So you can get cute and fancy all you want. You want to toe drag dudes like, look at me, I'm toe drag. Jacob Trouba will stick you, boy, and he'll put you down. And I don't mind that. I don't want guys elbowing guys. You elbow a guy, you're getting 10 games. I don't care about the fight. Some of these guys like Braden, I'll give you an example. Braden Shin fights guys off the draw because they hit a guy earlier. I love Braden Shin so much, but he's not a good fighter. I don't want him fighting. I want somebody else doing it. But the respect value is still there. I love the game. I dissect it like I always have. And it's not monsters squaring off. But you know when I think of that? We're the last dinosaurs. So in a selfish way, we get so much more attention because we've done it. No one's going toe to toe for 2 minutes like I did anymore. Like no one's doing that. So we're the last ones, and it's all on YouTube, and we can monetize it and stuff like that. But I still love the game now because the hits are still going on.
You mentioned McGrattan, and the fights between you two are legendary around hockey circles. But there was a guy who, rest his soul, that you fought after the Toronto incident, Wade Belak, when you turned around and it was Belak coming towards you. What was it like fighting a guy like Wade Belak who could certainly hold his own?
And you're 22 years old at the time. You're just a kid.
Well, I messed up, dude. And I love you, Wade. And, like he's just, God, if you meet anybody that knows him, they love him so much. And I knew him because I fought him a billion times, but I didn't know him. But, like anytime you talk to somebody like Wade was such a cool cat. Like everybody loved him. And God, rest in peace, homeboy. I love you, man. But I messed up. I was a kid and I rocked Caberlet so hard one time, dude. Oh God, I hit him so hard. And you're getting attention and stuff. And all of a sudden now I get a negative attention for the first time. I'm 22 years old. I rock Caberlet and knock him out. No one fights me. And Claude Julien sits me the rest of the game, which he should. Sits me the rest of the game. I can't go out there. And Tucker's trying to fight me on the bench. He was sitting out. And I love Tux. We had him on the pod. All good. But I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? So 2 weeks go by, and that whole city in Toronto, they hate me. I've never had anybody hate me in my life. Maybe besides a couple of girls that I was kind of weird to in high school. I don't know. And I was like, how do I fix it? But they wanted to kill me, and they wanted me to dead. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And they knew the big boy was going to kill me. Like Belak's going to get him. And I just was like, what do I do? So it was good for my career, man, in a weird way. Now, you never want to hurt a superstar like Caberlet. God, he's just a great guy. But as far as figuring it out, you messed up. You messed up, Cam. You hit a guy late, you effed up, and you got 3 games. Now you got to pay the piper. And my dad's like, you got to do it. You got to pay him. I go, Dad, they want me in. Dad, what am I do? You got to do it. You got to pay you got to do it. You hit him hard. You got to do it. And I'm like, okay. 2 weeks go by. And here's the funny part. We're in Toronto, crazy. They hate me so much. And the guys on the Devils made me go out by myself in warmups and skate around like I'm a rookie. And they booed me for 2 minutes. And it's like, now that I'm a rookie, but they just knew that I could handle it. And I went out there and I did it. And I'm like, let's go. And then finally that game comes, and I remember the first shift I go out and I rock a guy because Belak wasn't out there. And I come back to the bench, and then I go out there and I'm like, ready to go? You want to do it? Let's do it. We square off. I'm like, whoo, let's go. Get tough, Cam. Get tough. Let's go. It's going to be a long one. Get your grip. Get your grip. Get your grip. Let's go. Get your grip. He's big. Get your grip. And I grab him and we just go. And I just don't fall. Don't get knocked out. Just go. Bam, 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 bam. And I remember at the end, I was on top and I hit him. And I look at my bench. And I go, Rawr! And then I go in the penalty box and I take everything off and I dunk my hair Rawr! And it's all over the place. And I'm like, I did it. I did it. I fought the monster. I did it. You knock a guy out. You pay the piper. You did it. And then you blow up and it's everywhere. And then you go out there. Now you're the man. Now you hit a guy. You could take care of guys. You get your confidence up. Don't crush superstars like, don't do the stupid things, but if you know you could take care of business, and that amplified my mentality. Sorry, I'm rambling, but it is what it is.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
What about the rest of the team, Janny? How does like your teammates now know, right? That you understand that you had to answer for it, and you did against the monster.
Well, you got to think like they, I was a good teammate. I played 2 years probably extra in the NHL because I was a good teammate. Like Lou could have set me down a million times, but I was a good teammate. I made everybody laugh. So they knew I was a good dude, but I was cocky. And they had to just put me in my place. And that I needed to show them that, because I just needed to show everybody that awesome ass team. A lot of those guys are Stanley Cup winners. Like, I'm a 5'11" dude from Eureka, Missouri, who's cocky. And I can't go stick up for myself after a Rocky guy. You better go do that. You better go do that. And after that, you look at the bench, they go crazy. We all hang out that night. They just took care of me, man. But I was good to them. They knew that I would do anything for them. And anybody looked at anybody on that team, I would stick up for them. No one, dude, did we ever get bullied around ever? Like ever? No one's ever said, well, Cam was on, but he didn't want to fight that one guy. That's just never the case. Now, I didn't score that many goals, or maybe whatever. But no, I always stuck up for my teammates, and they all know that, man. So it's just a good feeling to have. Was McGrath sometimes too? Don't get me wrong.
Was McGrattan the toughest guy you ever fought?
Man, that's a loaded question, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure you hear it all the time.
I want McGrattan because I knew I could go with him. I knew I can go with him. I knew if I fought McGrattan, I'm like, give me my grip, baby. Give me my grip. Let's go. And then it'd take 50 punches. I'd eat them off the back of my head, and I'd finally get it. I'm like, here we go. Because he knew I knew I could hit him. He'd let me hit him. If I knew how to get my groove, I could hit him, and we could make a badass fight. Look at our fights. They're ridiculous. Like, no one's ever doing that again. Like, no one's 5'11" guy is going to fight a 6'5" guy in today's game and go like, let's go, boom, and trade and eat 50 of them to get a punch in. And I just knew how to be a warrior. But when it comes to McGrattan, like I knew that he'd go me. Some of those other guys would just string you out and be nope, and it'd just be bad fights. But McGrattan, I'm like, let's put on it. He knew. It's all about putting on a show. Let's put on a show, baby. Let's do it for everybody. Let's go for 2.5 minutes. If we both want to do this to the crowd, so be it. We kick the crap out of each other. I love that man. He's sober. He went through hell. I hang out with him in different events. I love Brian McGrattan. He's a sweetheart, and he does great things for the hockey community.
Your calling card, Cam, when you were fighting was often, taking 30 punches to start the fight. It was like you needed to get hit to get riled up kind of thing. And you'd always push the refs. Yeah.
I was short.
Push the refs off too.
Listen to me. It wasn't I needed to take 30 to get going. It's more like I'm 5'11" and I'm fighting guys way bigger than me. And I can finally get my grip when I need to get my grip. I had to eat punches to make the fight out of it. It wasn't like, no, go ahead, hit me. No, it was more like, I don't have a goddamn grip because you're 6'5" and you know what you're doing. So I got to eat 50 and there's 20,000 people watching. I'm not just going down and be like, oh, I did it like they do now. Like, I threw a punch. No, I beat me. And if I get knocked out, fine. But I'm going to get you at the end if I'm still good. So sorry to cut you off, man.
No.
You got me riled up. Now it's more like, it's honestly more like I wanted to show that I could eat them. I knew how to eat them. I wasn't taking them off the chin. I was taking them off the forehead. I just knew how to do it. Like, you just like a boxer. Like, you figure it out, man. I've been doing it. I didn't just start doing it when I was in the NHL. I was a killer when I was young, to be honest with you. Not in a bad way, but like I just was I fought a 40-year-old man one time when I was 14 years old. I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember being out there. It was down to Lake of the Ozarks, and I was sitting in high chairs. And I stole beer from my dad and my buddy, and I'm drinking beer. And these guys were walking to a party, this big bar down the road, and I'm talking shit to all of them. And I finally like, oh, you're gonna get laid tonight, you whatever. And he goes, what'd you say, little boy? I go, I'll go you. And he picked me up and he slammed me down. My shoulder ripped out. When I was 14 years old, I'm like, that was just a lesson. It's a lesson in life. You got to know how to, you can't do that. Like my dad got so mad at me. I had to get surgery. It cost him out the ass. Like, it was bad. And you just learn from that kind of stuff. But once you know that you're not as big as everybody, but if I fight you and I give you a go, it doesn't matter if you beat me. I already won if I stand in there. That's the moral. And that's not just a moral for fighting. That's a moral story for girls playing against boys at a young age. This said, don't ever be intimidated by anybody. In the workforce, don't ever let anybody intimidate you. Don't anybody take advantage of you. Don't you ever. If I have kids, which I might, there might be some in Windsor right now. I don't want to, that's joking. But if I had kids, my parents told me, don't you let anybody take advantage of you in any way possible. You see that happening all the time. Bullying, don't you ever let that happen. And that was just kind of my mindset when I fought these guys. They might beat me, but if I could hang in there, I won the fight. Rambling again, sorry.
You are clearly a guy that is proud of your Missouri roots. So I wonder if you can, So I wonder if you can even put into words, Cam, what it meant to put on that St. Louis Blues jersey for the first time.
Would have all the girls I tried to like talk to in high school that didn't want anything to do with me. And now I'm like bagging guys up in front of 20,000 people and taking my jersey off and flexing my pecs in the penalty box. Yeah, that felt good. Think about that for a second, right? Like, just think about that. Like, it was too much because I'm a guy. I had two different lives, dude. I had my hockey buddies and I had my high school buddies that don't even play hockey. And they're just like watching you play. And it's just like, it's crazy. And I'd take everybody out, man. I'd get limos. I would take care of the guys so much to where I spent so much money, but it all comes back. It's like a boomerang. You ever listen to what's that band called? They sing a called The Hook, where it's like a little boomerang and it just always comes back around. Meaning I went out and I spent a ton of money in these bars. I met so many damn people and I partied so hard, which is horrible. But I look back at it now doing radio and I'm like, now I know these guys, like they know that you took care of people and now they sponsor you and stuff. It's just weird how it works. Don't get addicted to things like I did. Don't get me wrong. Like I done near died twice, but if you take care of people, man, and you stay in that town, they'll take care of you. They remember it. They do. Just like I remember you guys. And now that I don't do many of these and you guys are from Guelph, I'm like, man, that city took care of me. I'll do anything for you guys. Like, what do you want?
Who knew that was what we needed Pulver to get in on?
I'm sorry. If you're from anywhere else, I'd be like, I can't do everything, man, because I get invited. But Guelph, you guys took care of me, dude, and I love all you.
Farzy was the TV play-by-play guy during that season. So, or play-by-play, Farzy, or were you a host?
No, I was hosting.
I'm
going to get to that in just a sec.
Was I nice to you?
I'm going to get to that in a sec, but the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay. Cocky though, but nice.
Yes and yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I get it.
I got to ask about this. You go back to New Jersey, and in one of your final years, you get to play with the Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, Jesus.
What was he like?
So this was one of my like years where like Lou wanted me on the team because I was a good dude. Nah, he could have found somebody else to kind of do what I did, right? But he wanted me on the team because I was good in the locker room. I was always there. I was always there early. I was, hey guys, I was stick handing around like before everybody showed up. Even if I partied, I would always make sure I was there before anybody. When Lou walked in the locker room, I was there with the trainers. Like, hi. Even if I didn't sleep much last night, I was always there for them. So Lou put me next to Yags, of course, in the locker room. And he's a very religious guy. I love him to death. He was so sweet to me, but he was an ass to a lot of people on the team. But sometimes he would put all his stuff next to me and I would take his rosary. He'd have his rosary and he'd read the Bible before games. And I'd be like, let me look at that Bible real quick. And I'd look at it and he'd be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, sorry, God, take it. Sorry about that. And then like his rosary would be down, he'd pray to it. And I'd take his rosary and put it over. He'd want to kill me. And he'd go out there and score a couple goals. He was so sweet, but he would bash guys in the locker room and then like get me involved to bash the guy. I'm like, I ain't doing that, homeboy. He was just so unique. He worked his ass off in every way possible, but he sometimes at road trips, we lived next to each other. He'd drive me home in his like $200,000 Mercedes. And I'd be going, I go, dude, Yogs, what the hell is that smell? He's like, oh, what do you mean? I go, your engine's smoking. Your engine's smoking, you idiot. He's like, what? No. I go, yes, it is. I go, when did you get your oil change? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. You don't know about your oil change. You have a $200,000 car. You're driving me home from a road trip. I love you. I'll do anything for you. But like, it's smoking to a point where like, I'm like getting high off of fumes. Figure that out, dude. Like it's just weird things like that, man. I love him though. He was good to me, dude. That's all I can say about that. I did steal his rosary and he got pissed about it.
You steal a guy's rosary, maybe he gets a little
You
pissed.
know,
I don't know.
it's like Satan does that, right?
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, before we let you go, I want to go back to Guelph because honestly, Cam, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. Poper will back me up on this. I have said on many occasions over all these years where I'm still in the O and you've been to the show and back, but you were then and remain still one of my favorite interviews because when you came on with us, you just told it like it was. You were honest, you were real. How do you feel now being on the other side? You're in radio, you're doing podcasting. What do you think of the media side?
Great question. You know, I'm not educated, right? So, you know, when I retired, I was kind of forced into it. Of course, like I'm not I don't have 50 million in the bank. Like I spent a lot of money on painkillers and drugs and stuff. I had to get through things. So I had to kind of start from scratch. And I just knew I had so many connections and these radio personality or radio stations in St. Louis, like, dude, we want you, you know, like they want you. And I'm not. And so I started working with radio and everybody I'm working with went to like Mizzou, right? Mizzou in St. Louis, which is like a broadcasting school. They went there, they spent $100,000, they're in debt and they knew all the ins and outs of everything. But I just knew how to talk to people and I have my story and I went through weird, cool things that's just unique. And I figured it out. But what I do is I get up every morning. You know, my job was when I played, get up, work out, do your thing, stick handle, blah, 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 box, this, skate. Now it's like, how do I work hard to do? I read all day. I listen to people. I listen to podcasts. I listen to humor. I listen to funny people and how they react in funny ways. I listen to how storytellers tell stories. I listen to how interviewers tell interviews. And I just listen and absorb. I wasn't educated on anything. And I have to be myself and I'm self-deprecating. And I don't try to act cool. Sometimes I get cocky. I know that. But I just have my rhythm and people like it. And I'm real and I'm open about my past, about everything. And I want people to learn. Now, here's another thing I do. I keep my DMs open for everybody. If you have a problem with something, I'll talk to you. I've been through everything. I swear to God, I have with so many weird things. I've lived a life, but I've lived hardcore things where it's all self-induced. Wasn't like my family beat me. No, me only. And I open up and I'll talk to people. People call me from Canada and I'll sit there for 30 minutes and be like, what do you think though? Well, what's your wife think? To random people I don't even know. I love that. And I just know where my niche is with this. And I'm open and I want to help people and I'll entertain you too. So I got what I need. I work hard and I listen to everything. But it's not like I wake up in the morning like, oh, I gotta do my show. No, I wake up like this, like, what do I got? The blues, let's see. I'm gonna write, here's a funny segue, blah, 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 like all that kind of stuff, man. And now I make good money doing it and people want to hear you every day.
Poper, you could learn something about show prep from this guy.
I know. I need to be doing some more work.
I need a producer.
Hire me.
I got you.
Perfect. I got to ask you, go over to Nottingham. It's the last stop of your pro career. I try to ask a question. If someone played with a former guest that we had, I like to bring up their name. And we had David Ling on this podcast.
Oh, Lord, EB. That's my dog right there. I love him so much. Let me tell you something. So we were playing in Nottingham. I'm the guy there, right? Like I'm the new guy. I played in the show. Everybody was so sweet. Like God, I love that damn town. The people, they treated my wife like she was honestly royalty. They'd cart her around and take her everywhere. I busted my ass for them. I wasn't making much money. I didn't give a damn. If I'm going to go play for you, if I'm committed to something, even if I know they don't have the money to pay me, I don't give a damn. I just did it. They made me dress up. They didn't make me do it. They asked me to dress up like Hulk Hogan, rip my shirt off in front of people before I knew anybody, and I did it because I don't give a damn. But when they grabbed Linger, people were like, get Linger, and I was like kind of worried. I'm like, is he gonna piss me off in the locker room? Like, is he going to be that? Am I going to have to go? Like, is he think he's going to be that guy? Because I hear weird things about him. And when I met him, oh my God, we laughed. We took the locker room over. We laughed. We would hold press conferences on the funniest. He was so damn funny. He's so damn skilled. He's so damn tough. He's such an enigma to so many things. He should be way more popular than what he is. He will act like he's skiing behind the Zamboni like a psychopath in front of 15 heavyweights on the other team, by the way. Like, you see him do that. There's 15 heavies that want to kill him, and he doesn't give a damn. He was so awesome, and he had to quit halfway through the season, although we still won. And it just was a thing with his family. But I was worried about him coming in. And when I met him, we became best buddies, and we took over the locker room, and we tell the stories in the back of the bus. Like, get back here, everybody. Let's go. Open that wine up. Let's do Linger. Who'd you do that, Linger? Oh, God. Oh, my God. When I laughed so much with him, I love that guy, man. Nova Scotia boy. And he a Novi. Is he a Newfie? Is it Newfie or Novi? He's whatever.
He's from the East Coast, and he is hilarious.
Oh,
and all the stories he told were true, apparently. Yeah. There you
Why
go.
would he say?
He had
he talked
lots.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He talked about skiing behind the Zamboni, and always having a good time, that boy.
Always. Now, me and him had an FU match in the locker room a couple times.
Oh.
Well, yeah, you got two alpha males, dude.
Yeah.
You got two alpha males. And he wasn't doing great on the power play. We were struggling a little bit. And I don't like chirp, like you know where you're at. But at that point, at that team, I had to call him out. And we went, what? Boom, what are you going to, like, then do it then, Linger. Then do it. What'd he do? Go out there and score 3 in a row. And, like, somebody did that to me, like, you're not sticking for a team, which doesn't happen much, but like, like, you're not playing. Okay, let me go prove it to you. And he did that. Like, little things like that. He could have just like packed it away. Like, I don't give a damn. No, I pumped him up and he scored 3 and he knocked somebody out probably. And then we partied all night and then we won like 15 straight. Like, that's just how it is, man. Your right guys need to be the right guys. They just need to be the right guys. They do. And everybody that knows what I'm talking about with that. You got to be the right guys. So if you think you're the right guy in the locker room, and even if you're a parent listening and your son is the alpha male, like, just remember that. He's got to balance everything. You got to balance everything. You're not too cocky. Don't give him everything. All the agents are on him. He's got to balance everything in the locker room. He can't be this because all the other guys are going to be like, oh, screw yourself. I'm not listening to you. You're here. You got to balance. You got to be in with everybody.
It's at this point
down, all y'all.
Go ahead, Farzy.
No, it's to you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's at this point of the podcast that I know we have to let you go, but I always have one last question.
He's always got one more.
I know Kate's looking after 2 dogs and the cat, and you got to give her a break here. But one of the favorite stories I've heard, and I'm hoping you can retell it, is Game 7, the Blues win the cup, and somehow you are outside of the arena.
Oh, man, that was a long day, man. Like, I got, local TV stations hiring me to go up there. They wanted me to stay in this one thing, and Kate and I flew Kate up, and we stayed in like an expensive place right downtown, looking over everything. It's just lovely. I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got my buddies all up there. We're all like, you don't even want to know. But I had to get my suit on. I had to get normal. I had to do a TV the whole time, which TV wears you out. Camera's on you. Am I sweating? How's my face look? Do I look crazy? Am I okay? Did I say the right thing? Like, it's live. It wears you out. And so at the very end, they win. It was just so weird. I'm doing like pose, like, somebody look at my family. Are they okay? Like, the whole city's going crazy. People are having heart attacks. Like, it's nutso in St. Louis. It's crazy in St. Louis. And finally, I'm sitting upstairs and everybody else is down the ice, but I got to do a live read from up in the press box. And I'm looking at all my buddies. They're all on the ice. They're all partying. Like, even my buddies that aren't even on the team are like partying. I'm like, get me down there. And so I'm stressed out. I finally get done and I talk to these Boston like security guards. And I'm in my suit. They know who I am. Like, I'm a player or something, right? Like, I got passes, I go, I need to get to the ice. They escort me down. They're all so pissy. And I'm pissy too. So I probably wasn't like the best dude to like ask for directions. And they escort me out and I go through which is so dumb on my part. They're like, go this way. And I open the doors, which is like 50 doors with no back thing, which I should have. And I go, hi, open sesame, ka-cling, ka-cling. I'm outside. I go, oh, those sons of bitches. They just push me. I'm like, what? Like, what am I doing? Oh my God, I lost my mind. I'm like, I need to find my wife. I need to go home. I need a beer. I can't do this anymore. I ruined everything. It was just such a long night. And then you have to process it. And look, it all made up for itself. It's a funny story. I told them on Spitting Chicklets, but those guys threw me out of the building. And I was just so aloof to where I was, like, you know, in the building. And they just toyed with me. And it's kind of funny in a stupid way on my part. But finally, I found my wife, who couldn't even get into the game. And we took a horse and carriage. We got a big thing of beer. We took a horse and carriage, like, we drank it, and we went back to the hotel and, like, you know, made love all night. So it's all good.
That sounds like happily ever after from where I'm
That's
sitting.
what you do, homie. That's what you do.
That's a perfect way to celebrate St. Louis winning the cup.
I know.
Oh man, Cam, listen, can't thank you enough for making the time. This has been really great to catch up with you.
Been
Good to
awesome.
see you doing so well. And thanks for doing this, man.
Dude, I love you guys. I love all y'all in Guelph, man. You guys treated me great. I'm going to come up for a golf tournament. Like, it's tough to get into Canada right now. I get that. But once things get normal, I'm going to come up there. We're going to do a badass golf tournament. We're all going to party.
That sounds like a
Cool.
plan.
Love it. Thanks a lot
Love
for
you
coming
guys.
on, Janny.
See you, dudes. Be cool.